These are the final bosses, the holy trinity, the three phones that dunk on everything else so hard when it comes to hardware, and it makes you wonder why the competition even bothers. Let me talk you through these things and why they are well worth a look, and should things go well, they could cause a trickle-down effect, resulting in your next phone benefiting from some serious upgrades. For those uninitiated, these three phones are all dubbed Ultra, but unlike the more popular and ubiquitous Galaxy Ultra you might be familiar with, these phones take that moniker a lot more seriously, with hardware in particular that makes Apple's, Google's and Samsung's best look like feeble attempts at greatness. I'm talking about the Xiaomi 17 Ultra, the Vivo X300 Ultra and the Oppo Find X9 Ultra, and despite subtle design differences, it's pretty clear that these three phones are all built with one thing in mind: to show off the best of their respective manufacturers' abilities. From the ginormous footprints to the hefty scale weights to the enormous dinner plate camera bumps on the back, physically at least it's easy to see these apart from the more traditional flagship options that you might have heard of or even used before from the more popular brands in the West. Thanks to some friends in the industry, I have been lucky enough to end up with all three review units at the same time. Not only does that make me extremely excited because I'm like a kid in a sweet shop with ultra Chinese phones, but it also allows me to get some proper side-by-side comparison data that I'll get to later in the video. So get settled and stay tuned for that.
This is Lenny, and he would really like it if you would hit the subscribe button. Wouldn't you?
Let's get the similarities out of the way first. They're all massive slab phones with UFS 4.1 storage, Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, all are capable of 8K video recording, have Wi-Fi 7, stupidly fast charging for their stupidly large batteries, all cost well over $1,000, and all have big old camera sensors to justify their massive camera bumps. These things were all built to be ultra, in a way that the regular lot were really not. I have dedicated full reviews of all three of these phones on my channel, so I'll leave links to each in the description. I go into a lot more nuance in those videos where I really can't in this unless I wanted to be sat here for hours, which I do not have time for. Before we get into the mini reviews, I kind of wanted to dive into the advantage of having all three in the same place at the same time with a bit of a side-by-side camera test. I'm not going to go into the specs and details in this video purely because I don't have time for that sort of thing, but I can at least demonstrate the differences in colour, contrast and perhaps framing in a little bit more detail with you. The way all three cameras handle the different lenses is a little confusing, so I will be writing those on the screen. It makes sense to compare the actual samples though to show you how that affects the output. I think all three are capable of capturing fantastic images, though I tend to lean a little bit towards the Oppo for its colour tuning, though Xiaomi and Vivo are both able to capture stunning images in their own right. Let me know if you can really tell the difference in hardware here, because though the samples are pretty close, I do feel like you can tell differences. Whether or not that comes down to hardware or down to software processing, well, that's where I think it gets really interesting. I don't know if I can see the hardware differences over the more pronounced colour tuning variations, from Zeiss on the Vivo to Leica on the Xiaomi to Hasselblad on the Oppo. But anyway, let's dive into the phones themselves now. I'll start off with my favourite of the three, which is the Xiaomi 17 Ultra. Now that may come as a little bit of a surprise to you, given it is the oldest, it's the one I've had the most experience with, the novelty has worn off, and my previous affinity publicly known to Oppo and Vivo cameras. But it's because for me, it is the best rounded, the most well-rounded, I should say, of the three in its software and its hardware when you take everything into account. I found the cameras do not necessarily hit the highest highs, but I do think the floor is higher with these than the others, especially for consistency. I find the physical design and build to be the most pleasing. Those buttons are genuinely some of the very best buttons ever put on maybe any piece of hardware. They are beautiful. Unfortunately for the Oppo, it does have its camera control knockoff, which does kind of take a turn for me. I found myself gravitating towards the Xiaomi 17 Ultra over those other models though, because I think it fits my taste the best. And maybe it's not perhaps the most objectively supreme phone on this list, but it seems to tick so many of the boxes. It's the only one with a 1-inch type main camera, which despite its lower resolution I found produced really nice images with the base 1x focal length. I think the Leica Authentic color preset produces my favourite imagery as a whole. I know it's not clinical, it's not insanely detailed, but it's just gorgeous, honestly. There's so much character and interest, and I love that about it. It also ships in the nicest colour in my opinion. I really like the way this thing looks. And it's also the cheapest to buy by quite a decent margin, to be honest. It has the smallest battery, it's only 6,000 mAh, but I wouldn't call that a compromise necessarily when you consider just how much bigger that is than what you'd be used to seeing in a Pro Max or a Pro XL or a Galaxy Ultra or something like that. And for me, HyperOS is the best of the 3 software packages, so it's going to be really hard to beat this thing. The Vivo X300 Ultra is probably the most impressive from a camera hardware standpoint because of its unique 35mm main lens on a big 200 megapixel main sensor, with a ridiculously large 50 megapixel ultra wide and a still very impressive 200 megapixel tele. There's certainly a bit of work to do with the camera processing in certain scenarios, that's still a problem, but overall it's a truly magnificent package. It's also the most expensive by far of the 3 on this list, and I'm pretty confident in saying that that probably rules out for the majority of people even looking to consider a phone like this, even enthusiasts. It benefits from the higher resolution and higher refresh rate display compared to the Xiaomi, though I'll be totally honest, in reality it's kind of hard to tell the difference. This one is an elite level smartphone, but a price that is also the deciding factor for, I'm going to guess, many people. Which brings us on to the middle ground in terms of price, the hotly anticipated Oppo Find X9 Ultra. Honestly, I was looking forward to testing this out for a long time. A phone that I've also loved spending time with. I love the faux leather back on the thing, the camera setup here, very fleshed out with an additional 50 megapixel 10x telephoto, which is pretty handy, though I say if it wasn't on here it wouldn't make a huge difference to the overall usability. And the photo color processing in master mode has been, for me, the best, like an absolute dream to use. Probably my favourite overall color processing in a smartphone camera, if what you're after is a camera that takes photos like a camera and not a camera that takes photos like a phone. It's kind of like what ProRes and APV log and stuff does in video, but for photos. It also has by far the largest battery here at 7,000 mAh. But for me, the camera control slider thing on the side, it's not to my taste. That action button thing, again, really don't like it. I'd really rather they weren't here if I'm honest. It also benefits from that big Quad HD Plus 144Hz AMOLED, which gives you a bit more top end compared to the Xiaomi, and it's very similar to what you have. It might even be the same panel as what you get in the Vivo. The Find X9 Ultra does pip the Vivo for me for a couple of reasons. One, I think ColorOS is significantly nicer than OriginOS, though this could be subjective, so you might have a different opinion to me. But also because whilst still eye-wateringly expensive, it's a big chunk cheaper than the Vivo as well. I think the price mixed with Oppo's rising brand cachet, particularly in Europe and the Champions League situation over the last few years, will make it a little bit more desirable than the Vivo, maybe more desirable actually than the Xiaomi as well, but definitely more so than the Vivo, purely because of that price. These 3 are the final bosses, the phones that Apple, Google and Samsung should really be striving to follow in hardware for their top tier, best of the best flagship models. As is quite obvious, there is clearly a price to pay for having such fantastic hardware, but Xiaomi has proven that it can be done for around the same price as the Galaxy Ultra, and that's enough evidence for me. The Xiaomi 17 Ultra, Vivo X300 Ultra and Oppo Find X9 Ultra are all absolutely astonishing mobile phones. They, in their own ways,